Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Before we start the Srimad Bhagavatam class, let us chant some Mangala Charana. Mangala Charana is an auspicious prayer to start the class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Narum Chaim Narottamam Deving Saraswating Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayat. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the only means of conquest over illusion and ignorance, let us offer our respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Lord Narayana, onto Nara Narayana Rishi, the supremest human being, onto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and onto the author Srila Vyasadeva. Nasta Presha Avadareshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistikihi. By regularly attending Srimad Bhagavatam class and by rendering service to pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely vanquished, and loving devotional service unto Lord Sri Krishna who is praised by transcendental songs and poetry is established in one's heart as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Jnana Salakaya Chakshunamritanyana Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of transcendental knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Nama Om Vishwadaya Krishna Prestaya Putere Srimite Japataka Swami Iti Namni Nama Acharya Bidaya Nitai Kripa Bidayani Gaurakadadam Dai Nirigram Tani Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 86, chapter entitled Arjuna Kidnaps Subhadra, text 52. Deva Shitrani Tirtani Darsana Sparsana Chanahi Sna Nahi Sa Nahi Punati Kalena Tat Api Arhatama Miksaya. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: one can gradually become purified by seeing, touching, and worshipping temple deities, places of pilgrimage, and holy rivers. But one can attain the same result immediately simply by receiving the glance of an exalted sage. Wow, this is a very nice verse. This is a gem of a verse. I'll repeat it again. One can gradually become purified. By seeing, touching, and worshipping temple deities, places of pilgrimage, and holy rivers. But one can attain the same results immediately simply by receiving the glance of an exalted sage. Purport: rather than remaining in seclusion and concentrating on one's own perfection, Vaishnava Brahmanas of the highest order dedicate their lives to sharing the benedictions of the Lord's devotional service. In the words of the son of King Prachinabhari, Te samvicharatam pabhyam tirthanam pava nichaya tasya kimna rochita tava kana samagama. Dear Lord, your personal associates, your devotees, wander all over the world to purify even the holy places of pilgrimage. Is not such activity pleasing to those who are actually afraid of material existence? This is from Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 30, Text 37. And Prahlad Maharaj says, prayena deva munaya swavimuktim kama maunam charanti vijani na parataha nishtha naitan vihaya kripana vimuksha eko nayam tvad asya saranam brahmato nu pasye. My dear Lord Narasimhadev, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vow of silence, Mauna Vrata. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet. Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 44. So this is one gem of a verse from this chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 86. This is Krishna speaking to two great devotees by the name of Sruta Deva and Bahulasva. So these two great devotees, this Sruta Deva is a very sincere Brahmana. This Brahmana, he has a family, he has wife, he has children, but he lives his life in such a way whereby he engages himself in providing for his family just enough for them to survive. All right, he will go and work in the morning, and he will work to the extent where he gets enough money to provide for his family for that day. So like that, he lived his life, and he spent the rest of his days simply performing activities that are pleasing to Lord Krishna. So this Sruta Deva was such a devotee of Lord Krishna, and in this Sruta Deva, he lived in this city called Mithila, and in this Mithila city there was a king by the name of Bahulasva. So this Bahulasva also is very, very great devotee of Lord Krishna. He was a king, and he was a very ideal king. He performed his duty as a king. He did not shirk his responsibility as being a Kshatriya. But the exceptional thing about this King Bahulasva is that he dedicated everything for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. His personal needs, he literally lived like a sannyasi. Even though he was a king, he lived like a sannyasi. So Krishna was very, very pleased. So Krishna, being very pleased, one day he decided to pay his devotees a visit. So he came to this city with many, many great sages. He wanted to bless his devotees by bringing these sages along with him. And some of the sages that came with Krishna where is the name of these sages? A whole long list of them. So among the sages that Krishna brought with him, these sages were all very great sages. Some of them were like Gautam Rishi, Narada Muni, Srila Vyasadeva, and a few others. So anyway, he came and he brought them in his chariot. Krishna brought these sages on a chariot to this city of Mithila. And when he came there, these two devotees, Sruta Deva and Baulashwa, they were overjoyed. Overjoyed. They welcomed Krishna with all their heart. And both of them invited Krishna to come to their home. And to please them, Krishna expanded himself. So each one of them thought that Krishna is in his house and not in the other person's house. The same thing Krishna did in Dwarka with the queens of Dwarka. He expanded himself 16,108 times. But in this instance, what happened, it was a bit special and unusual in the sense that not only Krishna expanded himself 2 times, so that he could go to the house of Sruta Deva and also the king Bahulaswa, he also expanded the personality of the sages. So the sages came with Krishna to these houses. So in Sruta Deva's house, Sruta Deva was so overjoyed, he was literally jumping up and down in joy. He did Abhishek for Krishna. He washed his feet, and he took the water, he poured it on all his family members, and all the people that came there also. He blessed them with the water that washed the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, and he massaged the feet of Krishna. He offered him whatever he had. He had all kinds of, he's a very simple Brahmana, so whatever he had, he gave it to Krishna. Krishna was just smiling and he was so happy. And in this conversation, this Brahmana said to Krishna this very nice short prayer he gave. This Sruta Deva said, "Let me offer my obeisance unto you. You are realized as the super soul by those who know the absolute truth, whereas in your form of time you impose death upon the forgetful souls. You appear both in your causeless spiritual form and in the created form of this universe, thus simultaneously uncovering the eyes of your devotees and obstructing the vision of your non-devotees." So this Brahmana is praising Krishna, and he's telling Krishna, "Oh Lord, you are the supreme soul and we are your servants. How shall we serve you, my Lord? Simply by seeing you put an end to all the troubles of human life." So this is the prayer that Sruta Deva gave to Krishna. So in this prayer, this Sruta Deva is stating a very, very fundamental truth. He says, for those who are devotees of Krishna, their vision, because their vision is purified, they will see Krishna in everything. They see Krishna everywhere. Krishna says also that in Bhagavad Gita, "Bahunam janmanam ante jnanam mam prabhajante vasudevam sarvamiti sa matma sudalabha." Krishna says that after many, many births and deaths, one will come to realize that Vasudevam Sarvamiti. Vasudeva is everything. Vasudeva is everywhere. Vasudeva is running everything. Everything that you see exists because Vasudeva allowed it to exist. And for such a person is great Mahatma. Mahatma Surdalabha. Very, very, very rare to find such a great soul. And at the same time, this Sruta Deva is also saying, for those who are non-devotees, who are very forgetful of you all the time, who want to forget you, in fact, who wants to imitate you, like to be enjoyers of this material world, you come in the form of death. You come in the form of death. When you hear this statement, when you come in the form of death, it also means that sometimes Krishna's mercy, he also comes, before he comes in as a form of death, he will come as old age and disease. Old age and disease is like a warning. It's like a, hey, wake up, don't sleep in the slumber of this forgetfulness. So in reply, Krishna, he said these prayers. My dear Brahmana, you should know that these great sages have come here just to bless you. They travel throughout the world with me, purifying them with the dust of their feet. So this is a very important point. Krishna here is glorifying Vaishnava devotees. So Vaishnava devotees, they are the authorized representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like in Kuala Lumpur, you go to Jalan Duta. You go to Jalan Duta, you'll find all the embassies of all the different countries, and in these embassies, you will find the ambassador of the country in Malaysia. So the Malaysian government will treat the ambassador as good as the leader of the country. Just like the ambassador of the United States is in Kuala Lumpur in Jalan Duta, we treat him just as how we would treat the president of the United States. Similarly, these Vaishnava devotees, they are authorized representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they travel throughout the world purifying them with the dust of their lotus feet. So because they are the authorized representative of the Supreme Lord, they go around all over the world simply to awaken the sleeping souls from the slumber of Maya, from the slumber of illusion. Those who think that they are their bodies, they are, they are the enjoyer of this material world. They are actually under the clutches of Maya. So it comes to this verse: one can gradually become purified by seeing and touching and worshipping temple deities, places of pilgrimage, and holy rivers. But one can attain the same results immediately simply by receiving the glance of an exalted sage. So this point is a very important point. It is stated here that Vaishnava devotees, when you talk about sannyasis, when you talk about devotees, there are basically two kinds. The first kind is called Bhajana Nandi. The second kind is called a Goshti Nandi. So the devotees of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna that Krishna is talking about here is the Goshti Nandis. So what is the difference between these Bhajana Nandis and Goshti Nandis? Bhajana Nandis are those devotees who are very, very exalted in their Krishna consciousness, who are very exalted, very pure, whereby their vision that they have is that every living entity is connected to Krishna in the most intimate way. They see every living entity, not only human beings, but everything, cats, dogs, birds, trees, everything. All living entities are spirit soul, eternal spirit souls, and their eternal relationship with Krishna. So therefore, because of this vision that they have, they become very, very humble, and they become very, very meek, and they consider themselves very fallen, very, very fallen, and not qualified to do a lot of things. So basically, these Bhajana Nandis, usually they will stay in one place. They stay in a holy place. And in Shastra, it is highly recommended that when one goes to a holy place, a place of pilgrimage, we must get association of such devotees of this place. Such devotees of this place. So these Bhajana Nandis, usually they are at these holy places. The holy place become holy because of these pure devotees. So we must go there and get association. And then the second kind of pure devotee of Krishna is called Goshti Nandis. Goshti Nandis are the one that Krishna is talking about here. Krishna is talking about these Goshti Nandis. Goshti Nandis are those who, they are exalted devotees, they are pure devotees, they are very, very highly, very highly elevated devotees that Krishna respects. Krishna himself, in this verse, he is respecting these devotees. These devotees, what they do is, out of compassion for the living entities out there, they go and travel all around the world. They go from house to house. They go from house to house of grihastas, of married couples. They go from house to house to go and remind them, hello, please worship Krishna. Whatever you have, wherever you are, Grihe Taku, Bone Taku, Sadahari, Bole Taku. Whether you're a grihasta, whether you're a brahmachari, whether you're a sannyas, you should constantly chant the name of Krishna. This is their main message. They go and they encourage everyone to engage themselves some level, some way. Just think of Krishna, worship Krishna, talk about Krishna, chant Krishna's name, share about Krishna to others. So these are the Goshti Nandis. So this verse here explains that these Vaishnava devotees, they wander all over the world to purify even the holy places of pilgrimage. It is not such activities pleasing. Is it not such activity pleasing to the people who are actually afraid of material existence? So this is a question made here by the sons of King Prachinabari. So they are saying that here that this what do you call this? At the end of Krishna's pastime, all the holy rivers came and fell at Krishna's feet, and they begged Krishna, Krishna, what will happen to all of us? Kali Yuga is going to start, and the Kali Yuga will be full of sinful people who will come to our rivers and bathe here, and we will become contaminated, and we will go to hell. So Krishna in reply said, don't worry, don't be so worried. I will come again as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and my devotees who are devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they will travel the world and they will come to your river and they will bathe in your river and they will purify you. This is the reply of Krishna to the holy rivers who are very fearful of Kali Yuga. So Krishna goes on, he goes on to explain to Srutadeva. By his very birth, a Brahmana is the best of living beings in this world, and he becomes even more exalted when he is endowed with austerity, learning, and self-satisfaction. What to speak of devotion to me? So these are the characteristics of devotees of Krishna. Brahmanas or Vaishnavas, they must be austere, they must be learned, and they must have self-satisfaction. So these are the signs of one who is exalted as a devotee of the Lord. Austerity here it means that they don't indulge too much in activities that are sense gratification in nature. They don't indulge. They are learned in the sense that they understand the principles and the tattvas that has been left behind by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the 6 Goswamis. And they are self-satisfied. Self-satisfied here means that they are satisfied with only 3 things. They only need 3 things. Actually, we all only need these 3 things. That is enough food to eat. They have clothes on the body, and they have roof over the head at night so that they can have a good rest. That's all. Self-satisfied. They don't need much. So Krishna goes on, even my own 4-armed form is no dearer to me than a Brahmana. Within himself, a learned Brahmana comprises all the Vedas, just as within myself I comprise all the demigods. Krishna is saying these Brahmanas, these devotees, they are more dear to him than his 4 arms. Lord Vishnu got four hands. He said these 4 hands are not dear to me. More dear than that is his pure devotees, his Vaishnava devotees who take great risk into trying to help others, just to be reminded of Krishna. Then within himself, a learned Brahmana comprised all the Vedas. All the Vedas, the Vedic knowledge, the conclusion of all knowledge is contained in the body of the pure devotee, because they understand the ultimate conclusion of this life. What is the purpose of our life? That is more important. To keep your goal clear in front of you will help you a lot in deciphering the confusion that is around you. This world is very confusing. For those who are not learned, it's very, very confusing. But if you know the purpose of life, then life becomes very easy. There's a nice verse in this regard also. There's, Daivi isa gunamai, mama maya turajaya, mama eva prapachante, mayam etam tarantite. Krishna says this divine energy of mine, which is consisting of 3 modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. See, Krishna is saying this material energy is very, very difficult to overcome. But one who surrenders onto my lotus feet, they can easily cross beyond it very easily. So this is the point I'm trying to make here. So Krishna goes on to say, ignorance of this truth, those who are ignorant of this, what he has spoken thus far, Foolish people neglect and enviously offend a learned Brahmana, who, being non-different from me, is their spiritual master in very self. They consider worshipable only such obvious manifestation of divinity as my deity form. This is actually referring to neophyte devotees. This is a very, very good explanation of neophyte devotees. Neophyte devotees are Hare Krishna devotees who are new, or babies in Krishna consciousness. They're very new. And the telltale sign of a neophyte devotee or somebody who's not mature in Krishna consciousness is that they consider the Supreme Lord to be only in the temple, only in the deity form. They do not acknowledge any one person to be worthy of their worship. Sometimes even their own spiritual master, they treat him like, he's somebody, he's my leader. That's it, finish. So this is the telltale sign of somebody who's a neophyte devotee. And because of this attitude, Krishna says that they are ignorant, they are foolish, because they neglect to treat these devotees, his pure devotees, and sometimes he offends them, enviously he offends them because of their wrong attitude. So this is a warning for all of us. Our spiritual life is actually dependent solely on the blessing of devotees. Only by the blessing of devotees we can make progress in spiritual life. For those who are initiated, they know that whatever they do in Krishna consciousness is only because they have the permission of their spiritual master, and whatever they do must be dedicated to their spiritual master. Therefore, whatever you do, especially if you're doing deity worship or you're doing preaching or you're doing any activity, you should always, at the end of it, you should always give thanks to your Guru, because your Guru has blessed you to have the ability to do this service. So the authorized representative for us of the Supreme Lord is our spiritual master. So neophyte devotees, they are oblivious of this fact. So we must be very, very careful to be very conscious of what is in our head, what is in our heart whenever we utter any words. Krishna, he say, enviously offends a learned Brahmana. We might not like the Brahmana for whatever reason, but we should not consider that Brahmana to be what we don't like. We have to understand that these Brahmanas, these pure devotees, they have dedicated their lives. That is their eternal benefit. That is their eternal identity. We should not look at what they do wrong, maybe out of mistake. You see, if somebody does something wrong, that's okay. You know why? Because we can always talk to them, and we can always put the facts straight, and we can try to teach them and try to enlighten them, and they will change their mind and they will become okay. So why we want to be so envious of somebody because of some temporary lapse of judgment? Instead, we should look at that person for his contribution for our progress and others' progress in spiritual life. So we should always keep that in forefront of our mind. That is more important. Krishna goes on, because he has realized me, a Brahmana is firmly fixed in the knowledge that everything moves and non-moving in the universe, and also the primary elements of his creation are all manifested from form expanded from me. Vasudevam Sarvamiti. Therefore, you should worship these Brahmana sages, O Brahmana, with the same faith you have in me. If you do so, you will worship me directly, which you cannot do otherwise, even with offering of vast riches. You see, Krishna says, if you worship these pure devotees, these Brahmanas, what happens is you are actually worshipping me directly. You will not be able to have association of the Supreme Lord every day, every time, but you will have association of his pure devotees every day, every time. So Krishna is saying, you worship these Brahmanas, these pure devotees, these Vaishnavas, and that worship will be, that is like worshipping me directly, is the same thing. So this is the advice that Krishna gives in this chapter. But let's go to something a bit more interesting. This chapter's name is Arjuna Kidnaps Subhadra. So this chapter actually starts with Parikshit Maharaj asking Sukadeva Goswami about his grandmother and grandfather. So who is Parikshit Maharaj's grandfather and grandmother? Parikshit Maharaj's grandfather is Arjuna, and his grandmother is Subhadra Devi. So what happened was, at one time, so the story starts like this. One time, Sukadeva Goswami was telling Parikshit Maharaj, one time Arjuna was on a pilgrimage for 1 year because of breaking some rule. He broke a vow. So among the Pandava brothers, they were all 5 brothers of them. They all shed one wife, that is Draupadi. So because this arrangement was a bit unusual, they all brothers, they agreed that each one of the brother is allotted a certain time with their wife, Draupadi. So, but what happened here was Draupadi, it seems, her favorite among all the 5 husbands is Arjuna. And what happened was she favored Arjuna very much. So she decided to spend more time with Arjuna than the other 5 husbands. So because of breaking the promise that he gave to his brothers, he was asked to go on a penalty, a dandanai. So that penalty was 1 year go on pilgrimage. So while on pilgrimage, Arjuna came to one place called Pravasha Kshetra. So there he met some members of the Yadu family, and there he found out that Balaram was trying to arrange Subhadra's wedding to Duryodhana. So when Arjuna heard this, he said, "This is not good. This is not a good arrangement." Because earlier what happened was, while on pilgrimage, Subhadra and her family, they attended a festival, and there Arjuna saw Subhadra, and immediately Arjuna thought, I must marry this girl. This girl is very, very beautiful. And later on he found out this girl is Subhadra Devi, is Balaram's sister and Krishna's sister. So Subhadra is the daughter of Vasudeva Maharaj. Vasudeva and Devaki. Yeah? So this Vasudeva Maharaj, after the killing of Kamsa, after Kamsa was killed, Subhadra was born. Subhadra, she was brought up in a palace, and she didn't know anything about all the hardships that the Kauravas went through because of Kamsa and all that. She didn't know anything about that. She was very nice, very happy girl, living in the palace, and she was extremely beautiful. By the way, this Subhadra is the same Subhadra in Jagannatha, Baladeva, and Subhadra. This is the same one. So it is said that Subhadra Devi is actually an expansion of Yoga Maya. She's Lakshmi Devi herself. So when Arjuna found out that Balaram wanted to marry Subhadra off to Duryodhana, Arjuna decided to go to Dwarka. From Pravasha Kshetra, this place of pilgrimage, he decided to go to Dwarka. So when he arrived in Dwarka, Arjuna went to see Krishna, and Krishna was so happy to see Arjuna. Why? Because Krishna and Arjuna, they had a very special relationship. So while speaking to Krishna, Krishna asked Arjuna, he said, "Did you hear or not? My brother is trying to marry off my sister to Duryodhana, of all people. Duryodhana, ayyopa." Then Krishna was the one who asked Arjuna, I prefer that, she marry somebody suitable like you. Would you be interested? Krishna asked Arjuna. So Arjuna, he was surprised. He was like, actually not really surprised. Krishna is Antaryami. He's the all-knowing Paramatma in everybody's heart. So he knows everything. So Krishna asked, say, why don't you marry my sister? You're very suitable, you know. And at the same time, Krishna also asked Subhadra, would you be interested to marry Duryodhana? Subhadra heard the name Duryodhana, only her face, she just turned her face, like, Allama, I'm not interested. I'm not interested at all. So Krishna nodded, okay, all right. And at the same time, Krishna got permission from Subhadra's father, Vasudev Maharaj, to find a suitable husband for his daughter, because he was thinking also, Duryodhana, nobody else out there. But there's nobody else. So, on the insistence of Krishna, Krishna suggested that Arjuna disguise himself as a Vaishnava sannyasi. Okay, so like that, being a Vaishnava sannyasi in Dwarka, what happens is people will invite such Vaishnava sannyasis to their house to have food, to have eat, to get blessings and all that. So what happened was, when Arjuna dressed himself up as a Vaishnava sannyasi, with a danda, three danda, he eventually got invited by Lord Balaram to come to his house to have for lunch, and nobody recognized that it was Arjuna. Nobody could recognize. He was so good, So while in the house of Balaram, Balaram ordered Subhadra to go and serve this Vaishnava sannyasi. So when Subhadra laid her eyes on Arjuna, and immediately she became attracted. Immediately she became very, very attracted. She saw, wow, this person is a sannyasi. Cannot be lah. Oh, his body is so masculine, so handsome. He's so good looking for a sannyasi. Yeah, same thing happened when Arjuna was in the Swayambara ceremony of Drupada Maharaj, where Drupada Maharaj wanted to marry off his daughter Draupadi. And at that time, Arjuna and the 5 Pandavas, they were in disguise. They were disguised as Brahmanas living in the forest. So they came there with the hope of getting Draupadi as their wife. So when Arjuna was asked to come and perform that shooting of the arrow through the eye of a fish, even at that time, Draupadi, when she saw Arjuna, she immediately, this is a Brahmana. Wow, his body all very, very masculine, very nice, and he's extremely handsome. Arjuna, among all the 5 Pandavas, Arjuna was always the hero. He was the most handsome, he was the most attractive, he's the most charming, he's the best archer, best fighter, best warrior, is the most intelligent, and of all, his best friend is who? Krishna. So Arjuna was always the hero. So when Subhadra saw the sannyasi, she can't help herself but keep her eyes on him. And Arjuna also, when he saw Subhadra, he couldn't lift his eyes off her also. So like that, an informal introduction was done. So Krishna went to Subhadra and told her that, Arjuna is very interested in you. And she became very bashful. And she told, Krishna told Subhadra that sannyasi that you saw, that is Arjuna. She immediately ran away out of shyness. So Krishna knew already, okay, she is agreeable. She is agreeable to this marriage. So with Krishna's help, Arjuna was trying to think what to do now, how to marry her. Balaram is arranging marriage with Duryodhana, of all people, Duryodhana, Ayyopa. So Krishna gave idea. He said, very soon there will be one Radha festival. Okay, there will be one Radha festival, and this is the time when Subhadra with other queens will leave the palace and attend this festival. Okay, so so when the festival came, this festival was actually the festival of Lord Jagannath. It was celebrated because Lord Vishnu woke up from his slumber. This is the another reason why we celebrate Deepavali. So this is one of the reasons why we celebrate Deepavali. The Lord Vishnu, he will wake up from his slumber from Palkadal. So this is the time. So at that time they were having a Radha celebration to celebrate this Lord Vishnu waking up from his slumber. So in this chariot procession, what happened was Arjuna decided to come in a chariot and kidnap Subhadra, and he escaped. While he was escaping, the security guard, the Yadu dynasty soldiers all tried to stop him, and Arjuna was shooting arrows at them. He didn't kill anybody, but just to shoo them away. Let me go, you know. So when this kidnap happened, when Arjuna kidnapped Subhadra, when Balaram heard, he was furious. I said, how can this happen? You know, this is the Pandavas, our friend. How can they do this to us? This is not proper. You know, so Balaram was so furious that he knew that the Pandavas were very close to Krishna. So he asked Krishna, Krishna, this is your friends. You please explain what happened. Why did this happen? So Krishna fell at the feet of Balaram, saying, my dear brother, please calm down. Please calm down. Please calm down. First thing Krishna said was, my dear Balaram, first of all, you wanted to arrange marriage of Subhadra with Duryodhana. Did you ask the permission of Vasudev Maharaj or not? No, I didn't ask. Did you ask the what Subhadra taught or not? He said, no, you didn't ask. So immediately Balaram became very defensive, you know, because he made mistake already. And said, no, but this is not right, you know, you go and kidnap our sister like this, you know, it's not proper. Then Krishna said, no, wait, wait a minute. You asked the guard that were there at the time, you asked them, who was riding the chariot when Arjuna kidnapped Subhadra? So all of them said, Subhadra was the one riding the chariot, while Arjuna was at the back shooting arrows. So game over already. So this is how Balaram was specified. Balaram realized, I say, this was not a kidnap. This is a elope. This is a elope. They all ran away together. Nobody kidnapped. Arjuna did not kidnap Subhadra because Subhadra was riding the chariot, running away from the place. So after hearing this, Balaram became very pacified and he asked his men, go and find Arjuna, go and find Subhadra, ask them to come back. We will conduct the ceremony. I will give him gifts, wedding gifts. Okay, so this is one pastime. So this pastime is very interesting in the sense that somebody will hear this pastime and they will ask, hey, how is it okay that Arjuna dressed as a Vaishnava sannyasi and indulge in doing things like tackling girls? How is it okay? So the answer here is very simple. It is sanctioned by Krishna. It is not a sinful activities. It was arranged by Krishna himself. All of this was arranged by Krishna only. Number one, it is for Krishna's pleasure. It was Krishna's plan. Krishna was the one who was the architect of all this, the kidnapping, getting the permission, this and that. Okay, that is number one. Number two, Arjuna is actually surrendered to his elder brother Yudhishthira. So anything he does, he must get the permission of his brother Yudhishthira. That is called following dharma. All of us in Kali Yuga, we are Sudras. Our dharma is to follow our authority, no matter how convenient or inconvenient, whether we like or we don't like. We have to follow our authority. We have to have obedience. Then we are called a Aryan. So in this case, Kshatriya, even Arjuna, being such a hero, he never at any point thought, "Alah, no need to ask for any permission. I am a big man." Never. For the purpose of marrying Subhadra, Arjuna got permission from his brother to accept her as his wife. And Yudhishthira said, "Yes, go ahead. Since you want to marry Subhadra Devi, by all means, go ahead." That is number one. And then the other question is, why did Balaram wanted to marry his sister Subhadra to Duryodhana? So the answer came was that Duryodhana was a student of Balaram in the art of fighting. And Duryodhana was a very, very good student. Very, very eager and good student. The other student that Balaram had was Bhima. Being Bhima, he was very playful. He was not serious. He was very playful. So Balaram did not appreciate that. So Balaram's pet was Duryodhana. That is number one. He liked him a lot because he was a very good student. He was very eager to learn. He wants to learn more. Like that. How to fight with the mace. And Balaram thought that there's enmity between the Kauravas, especially the sons of Dhritarashtra, with the Yadavas. So he thought to make some peace, make some alliance to marry off his sister, so that they are eternally related and as relatives, so that politics will become a bit more easier. That was his intention. But the mistake that he did was he never asked Subhadra herself. That's the same mistake that Rukumani's brother also did. Rukumani's brother is Rukmi. He wanted to marry Rukumani, his sister, to Sisupala. All right? He never asked her opinion. It is very important that girls in the world of the Kshatriyas, they often use their children as bargaining tools, as gifts for their political advancement, which is okay. But even then also, the parents should ask the girl, "You agree or not? You can or not? Can you help me? You marry this boy, we can become good family members." So the mistake here was that Balaram did not ask permission from Vasudeva and did not ask permission from Subhadra. So this is actually very important. Even though it's a nice story, please note that this is activities performed by Kshatriyas. Please don't ever think that you're a Kshatriya and you can do this also. Please, we are not Kshatriyas. We are now in Kali Yuga, and in Kali Yuga, there's a verse that says, "Kalau Sudra Sambhava." Everybody in Kali Yuga are Sudras. So what is the dharma of a Sudra? The dharma of a Sudra is to accept a spiritual master and follow his instruction no matter what. That is the dharma of a Sudra. So we are all Sudras. In Kali Yuga, there's no more pure Brahmanas. There's no more real Kshatriyas. Vaishyas also questionable. Vaishyas, those who are doing business, is questionable. Question mark there in Kali Yuga, because these Vaishyas by right, their dharma is to give in charity. But you see, our businessmen are full of greed only. They want to accumulate more and more and more money until they think they're accumulating wealth. But actually what they don't realize is this wealth is actually karma. And this karma somehow or other will overtake them. And the way these people have been overtaken by bad karma is when they will have signs of misfortune in their family. One of the signs is they will have some family member who will be a retarded. That is one sign. Or somebody will be born deformed. These are all signs of excessive sin. Therefore, the dharma of Vaishya, mercantile people, business people, is to give in charity, give 50% away. Whatever they have, whatever they make, give 50% away. Whatever 50% left, they can really enjoy that without any guilt. Their dharma is to support those who are, number one, brahmanas, who bring good fortune for the whole society. They are supposed to do that, number one. Number two, they are supposed to pay taxes so that Kshatriyas can also live. And number three, they are supposed to employ Sudras. So this is the dharma of Vaishyas. So we have to ask ourselves also, no? What is our dharma? Our dharma is, as Sudras, is to accept a spiritual master and follow his instruction very, very carefully. Hare Krishna, I shall end here. Thank you very much.